don't want to, like, I don't have targets to display all these slides, I have to finish. No, it's like always I'm giving the priority to my students. So I always, doesn't matter how many times, if you cannot get a point, I will explain it again. So I will always ask you, did you understand? Are you okay? And I will judge your faces. If any of you say, no, no, I want further clarification, I will explain it again. So likewise, we will slowly, gradually extend our course. Okay. So even though the course outline, I think you have found the course outline is uploaded in your LMS. Even though the topics have been specified there, I will try based on your understanding how much I'm going to cover and how much depth I'm going to cover for each of these topics. Understood? So together we will design the course, okay? Based on your expertise level, understanding, and also based on my capacity as well. Right. I think I introduced myself. So I have been a lecturer in the Department of Business Economics in my university for 6 years now. And 1 year class as a temporary lecturer, and now I'm a permanent lecturer. And I did my bachelor's also from the same university. My bachelor's in business economics. Then I did my master's recently from Japan, and I came last year and pursued my duties again. So yeah, that's my background. Right. So I have been teaching microeconomics, macroeconomics, managerial economics, econometrics, quantitative economics, all economics related courses in my university. So, right, always let's try to mutually communicate with each other and set up the course. Okay, right. So you said always you have studied economics down here, right? If I ask you this question, simply, can you give me one sentence? What is economics? What is economics? Anybody? Oh, no. Yes. What is economics? Is an idea? How can it? No idea. Okay. Now I can change the question a little bit. Do you use economics in everyday life? Yes. Okay. What sort of things you learn? What sort of concepts? So what practice? Where? Did you use any economic today before coming to this lecture? Yes. So what happened? Use parameter, you want to use here? What happened? Okay, so when you're buying something, you use economics. Okay, for an example, let's say you bought your breakfast today. When you go to the canteen or whatever the shop you wanted to buy breakfast, there are several options, right? So many options. For example, there can be fish bun, sausage bun, pastry, what else? Bread, the sandwich, likewise. So you made a choice and selected one particular option. Yes, you use economic concept. If I ask you why you had to make a choice, why? Why you made a choice? Okay, there are different items. Why don't you buy all the items? If you like everything, you can purchase everything. Why you made a choice? Yes, because of limited resources. In this case, your money, right? Maybe your budget, maybe the money in your pocket is not capable of buying all the options, right? No enough money. So because of the unlimited wants, but the limited resources, we have to make a choice. So this economics is all about making choices. Understood? So it doesn't matter whether you are a consumer or a producer, always we have to make choices. Or we are saying, like professionally, we are saying we have to take rational decisions, right? Because our resources are limited, but the wants are unlimited. So we have to make a choice in order to maximize what? From your perspective, what do you want to maximize? All of you are consumers. So you want to maximize satisfaction, or in proper term we say utility, right? You want to maximize your satisfaction or utility. So your objective is maximizing the satisfaction or utility. What is your constraint? What are the constraints or the limitation? Limited resources. Can you give few examples? Income, budgets, monthly incomes. Okay, let's think about your choice to come to today's class. Now you have made the decision. Now you are sitting in my class, right? Now you have done a I don't know whether rational or irrational. At the end of the class, you will like interpret whether your decision is rational or not. Anyhow, you have made a decision now, right? So, what do you want to maximize now by coming to this class? Your knowledge. In other words, you want to maximize your satisfaction or your utility, right? You want to learn something. If your objectives are met, you will satisfy, right? So you are consumers. So you want to maximize your utility. So what are the constraints that you face when you're making this decision? When you're making the decision, what constraint do you face? Time, yes. In addition to income, maybe the time also, right? So you have to think about all the tasks you have to complete within the day. So the time is also a limited resource for you. Income is a limited resource for you. So based on the constraint, like subject to constraints, you are trying to maximize your satisfaction. So it's the same story for producers as well, right? So if we take the economy, I'm just like introducing this subject still. So if we take the economy, we say we have like several agents in the economy. That means we have different actors in the economy. Can you name a few? Suppliers, or we could say producers, right? Who else? Government. Who else? Producers, government, that's all. Consumer. That's all. Competitors. Yes. So basically, let's limit to these three main agents in the economy: consumers, producers, and government. All are active within the economy, right? So they all have some objectives. If we take consumers, we know their objective is to maximize their satisfaction or utility. How about the government? What is their objective? Maximizing the income. Is it the government objective? Why they want to maximize the tax income? Yes. Why they want to set rules and regulations? They want to switch on the sales, you know. Maybe can. Yes. So what is the objective of the government? No idea.
Giving back to the children.
Yeah.
Giving back to society.
Creating.
Giving back to the society.
Giving back to the society. Kind of related, but you are not at their skills. Maybe it's very difficult for us as like citizens in Sri Lanka to set objective for Sri Lankan government, right? Because like many times still we are not like witnessing whether the government has an objective or not, right? Maybe that's the problem. In general, we could say any government want to maximize the welfare of the economy or welfare of the people in the society, right? So the welfare maximizes for the government. How about the producers? What are their objectives? For the producers, maximize profit, right? Same as the consumers wants to maximize utility, producers also want to maximize their profit, right? So they want to maximize their profit. They also face some limitations. So they also face some limitations. So can you think of some constraints that the producers face when they try to maximize their profit? Government rules and regulations. We needed resources for them also, right? So this subject, business economics, specifically focuses on how the firms or businesses, it's business economics, so how this business or firms, or in other words, producers, make decisions in order to maximize their objective. So simply the objective of this course is to analyze the producer's perspective. Understood? So there we would learn how they produce, what are their costs, what different market structures available for them. So according to the market structure that they are functioning, what type of decisions they take, whether market structure to structure these decisions are changing. Likewise, we are going to learn all these concepts related to business. Understood? So that is the focus of the course. So today we are going to, you can see the slide now. So we are going to discuss about theory of production in the short run and long run. And this is the introduction. I already kind of introduced these slides. You can refer for further information, but I will give you kind of summary. Okay? Right. Now we know the focus is here, the producers. How they are going to maximize the profit based on limited resources. Now in economics, there are two pillars. If we take economics, economics is all about making decisions, right? In order to maximize some objective, you want to make decision, rational decision. So economics guide you to make rational decisions. In economics, basically, there are two main pillars. Microeconomics and macroeconomics, we say. Okay? So, what is the main difference between these two, micro and macro? Micro, macro. What is the difference? No idea? Micro, macro is? Micro is control. Yeah. Not less. Any other definition? Macro is inside, macro is outside. Sort of, yes. But not the perfect answer. Any other idea? And internal. Budget. Oh. It's like this. We cannot like pinpoint. This is micro, this is macro. It always changes with the context. Okay? For example, if I talk about, let's say, your family background, or let's say some economic variable, let's say income. So, like how many of you are working at the moment and getting an income? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 11, and getting some income. So now I am asking the income from individual of you. Okay, what is your monthly income? What is your monthly income? Likewise, I'm considering individual students. So if I consider individual student within this class, this one student is the micro. Okay, one agent, one economic actor, one student in my class. That is the micro. Then if I in general consider the classroom as a whole, then that is macro. Understood? So each of you together will aggregate something. So my entire class is the macro. So each of you one by one, if I consider you individually, that is mine. Okay. Now the class is macro, one student is mine. It does not say that class is always a macro person. Let's consider all the classes now being conducted within this subclass. If I compare all these classes one by one class is micro. So all the classes together, this campus is macro. Understood? So it depends. So if we refer to economics, microeconomics is we are considering or the focus is on individual agent. It can be one consumer, one firm, or the government, likewise, one agent. Understood? Macro is the entire economy and within. Understood? So here in this 4 series, we particularly focus on micro. Why? Because we are checking how individual firms are maximizing profit or taking production decisions. Understood? So we are looking at one by one, not entire. But if we are talking about GDP, price level in the economy, unemployment, these concepts are macro as we go forward. So now you know the two different pillars in economics. Right. Here, doesn't matter whether it's micro, macro, when we want to check something, we always based on an economic theory. Understood? So here in economics, we have something called theory. So what is the theory? Can you give some theory example? What theory is it? No idea. Huh? What is the very first basic theory that you learned in A-level economics? What theory of that? That is that. Demand theory, right? Demand theory. Theory of demand, no? So what is this theory of demand? What are the demand theory here? What is the theory of demand? Are there any coming students who cannot understand its thinker? So time to time if I use some similar references, that will be all right. No. What is demand theory? No idea. You are not demand theory? Okay. Simply, demand theory gives the relationship between price and quantity demanded for a good. What type of relationship is there? Negative or positive? Relationship between price and quantity demanded? Negative relationship. So this demand theory says, for an example, theory example is demand theory. So the demand theory says there is an inverse relationship between price and quantity demand. If we take a fruit, any mango, if the price doubles, you will reduce the consumption of mango. So this theory gives you that formula. That is the theory. So always in economics, a theory can be tested using a model. Okay? So now we know there is a theory of demand. So to test the theory, we are constructing a model. So what is a model? Now we really want to check whether in reality there is an inverse relationship between price and quantity demand. So can we then check for all the goods and services in the economy at once so that then it is complex, right? So instead of like taking the reality, we are kind of making the model and extract some of the reality. Understood? So model is an extract of the reality. We consider some specific context. For example, we consider maybe mangoes, only that product. Maybe the demand coming from this class, one sample. Then we check whether this theory is valid for this particular sample. Understood? So that is the model, right? So model can be constructed for different contexts. So to simplify the model, we have some abstract in the model. That means we are not considering the entire reality, just some portion of it, abstract. Okay. And also we made several assumptions for that. Assumptions. Why we are making assumptions? What is the assumption in the demand theory? What is the assumption in demand theory?
Specific time. Specific time.
Okay, what else? Like basically main thing. Like if we take mangoes, we say when the price of the mango increases, all other things are held constant. Everything held constant. Right? Then we examine the relationship between price and the quantity demanded of mangoes. So why we are making that assumption? In reality, is it true? While the price changes, all other things held constant. No, they are actually changing. But to make it simple, We are assuming all other things are constant now. We are focusing on these two variable relationship on. So always we use assumptions to simplify the situation, to reduce the complexity. Understood? Right. So in a model, it's a kind of abstract from the reality and based on several assumptions. That within a model, we can identify two types of variables. Two types of variables. Understood? So these two types of variables we say endogenous variables and exogenous variables. So what is the difference between these two? Endogenous and exogenous. Okay. Let's take an example. Now our model theory is demand theory. We are going to check it using a model simplified version for mangoes. Okay. So now we say the quantity demanded of mangoes would depend on is a function of price of mango. Right? So what else there? What other variables are held constant here? So what are the other variables that we assume are constant? Can you give some examples? Other variables. When we are examining the relationship between price and the quantity demanded of mangoes, what are the other variables? Income. What else? What else? Taste or preferences. Okay. Taste and preference. So we assume while we are examining the relationship between mangoes and their quantity demand of mango and the price of mango, income and also the consumer taste have constant. What else? Price of the other goods can be substitute, can be compromise, right? Price of substitute. Can you give examples for price of substitutes? Price of substitutes? What are mangoes for substitutes? Instead of eating mangoes, what would you eat? Pineapple. Yes. Any other fruit can be a substitute. Can we give some complements example? Complements means what? You have to eat both of them together to satisfy your need, right? For example, tire and tube. But remember today we have tubeless tire, right? So what else? What else? On a complement, right shoe and left shoe. Both are equal. What else? So mangoes can you think of a complement? Mango, ornament. Yes, mango and ice cream. Right? You don't like to eat mangoes in ice cream. No? It depends in the taste, no? What else? How many mangoes do you like? No, you want to eat mango inside. That's it. That's it. Right. So now we have constructed this model. The model examining the relationship between quantity demand of mango and the price of mango, and we have considered some other variables as well. Now, if I ask you to categorize these variables into endogenous and exogenous, what would be your answer? Endogenous and exogenous. No idea? Okay. Or are you all using ChatGPT? Yes, I am. Right. Okay. So why don't you ask ChatGPT? Give all the list of the variables and ask it to categorize. Do it now. Use your formats and ask ChatGPT. What are ingredients and experience variables for this example? Are you all having the paid versions? No, free version. So you aware like the free versions always make mistakes? It doesn't matter whether it's a paid version, that also make mistakes. So can you please mark the attendance? Did you all mark? What happened? You need the QR code again? Now, okay. Done. Okay, so did you ask ChatGPT? Yes? So what is the answer? What are the endogenous features? What are the endogenous? Did you get that? QPN, PN.
Only QD.
Only QPN is endogenous features. That's all others exogenous features. That's the problem, right? So here, now I will explain you what is endogenous and exogenous. Now you know real hand why you cannot rely on ChatGPT. Okay? So endogenous variable means any variable that is being decided or determined within the model. Within the model. Understood? So if I ask you to draw the quantity demand or the demand curve, it's something like this, no? Right? So this model always basically explain the relationship between price and the quantity. So it allows these two variables to change within the model. So we said the variables that are determined in the model, here the quantity demand of mango and the price of mango are endogenous. The variables that are determined within the model. Now we said this model to determine the relationship between these two. So these two variables are decided within the model. So if we change the price, let's say this is our P1 and here this is our Q1, QB1. So if we increase the price to 2, you can see the quantity demand decreases. So when we change one variable, the other is also going to be changed. So these two variables are determined in the model. So these are endogenous variables. What are exogenous variables? Variables that are introduced to this model from outside. So here, this income, taste, price of substitutes, all are introduced to the model from the outside. Okay? Alienating introduced that. If that's the case, if any of this variable changes, at the moment when we are looking at the relationship between these two, we only consider those two only. Assuming these three are constant and fixed, right? But if we allow one of these to change, for example, now we allow income to change. What happens when your income increases? What happens when your income increases? Demand will increase. If I ask you to show it in this curve or the graph, how do you show? Is it a movement along the curve? No, because price does not change. Quantity demanded does not change. Only the income changes. So when the income changes, you can afford more. So you will buy more. Keeping the price fixed. At this price, your demand will increase. Understood? So when we change the exogenous variables which are introduced to the model from outside, again, the endogenous variables can be changed. Understood? Right. So these parts are not directly pinpoint in your slide. So if you want, you can take the notes now. So you can start with what is micro and macro, then what is theory, what is model, then what are the difference between endogenous and exogenous. Then write the example as well. Your number here. This one, no? This one. Okay, 14. 14. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. So there are 15 attendance in the system, only 48 students are here in the class, right? Why there's a difference? So do you guys here also do face education? Online, there's one person online. All right. How can we check that? All right, right. Okay. Okay, so did you take the notes? Okay. Normally, what is the setup of the class? Do you get a break in between? Back for then from 8 to 11, you need a break in between. Yes. Then again from 11 to 11, 11:30 to 12, you get a break. Again from 12 to 3, you need a break. Right? We can just have breaks one day. to give you these slides. Maybe I will do some alterations and we'll upload, okay? So you do not need to write everything or copy down everything in the slides to your notebook. But normally in the board, I will discuss some examples that are supposed to be taken by yourself, okay? And those things also will be tested at the exam, even though they are not in the slide. Okay, that's the importance of attending the lecture. Okay, that. And I will brief you like the evaluation criteria and all later. Okay. Okay. Now, if I ask you, this theory of demand, is it belongs under microeconomics or macroeconomics? Does it belong to microeconomics or macroeconomics? Theory of demand. Why macro? Any idea? Is it micro, macro? Why micro? So you have to rationalize or justify your answer. If you are like strongly saying it is macro, you should come up with justification. Why it is macro? If we put it like this, if we say this is for one consumer or for one producer, the relationship between price and the mangoes that we sell, then it is micro. If we talk about the entire market or entire Sri Lankan mango demand and price, then it is macro, I believe. Understood? So it differs. You should be able to come up with proper justification. So here then, business economics is all about making decisions, right? Using economic theory, we have to solve day-to-day business decisions. So can you tell me what type of decisions a businessman or a producer have to take day-to-day? What type of decisions do they have to take? No idea. We are not doing businesses, so we do not know. You see? Pricing decisions, right? Especially if we think about these perishable goods like vegetables, fruits, they always have to think of the prices. No? Have you observed, even if you go to the supermarkets, Kings or car goods, have you observed in the evening during night, the vegetable and fruit prices they are making it low? 50% off are there. They have to make decisions, right? They have to think, okay, if we have, the fruits or the food or the vegetables are still there in the market. Now the closing time is arriving. Are we like selling this at a lower price or are we allowing them to perish? That decision we have to take. Pricing decisions. What else? Quality, yes. How to maintain the quality. What else? The main decisions. You are talking about the main decisions. It's the main decision of producer have to think of. Not the quality is also important. Quantity, yes. How much I should sell, right? So the production, how much I should sell to maximize my profit. So that is the main objective of the or main question that the producer has to find the answer. Understood? So now we are going to learn how the producers are making these decisions. We are saying to take the optimal solution, right? So what is an optimal solution? Optimal means the best, right? What is out of, there can be several answers to several options. Among all the options, what is the best? That is the optimal. So business economics is all about identifying or analyzing the businesses' decisions. How much they are going to produce based on what economic theories they are making that decision. Understood? Right. So these are some types of decisions that the businesses have to take. And here this also we talk about, right? So you don't have to remember all these step by step that I will not test, but get the basic understanding. And here again some important concept, the opportunity cost. What is opportunity cost? What is opportunity cost? If I ask you, what is the opportunity cost of all of you for coming for this class to do? Now you have made a choice, have taken a decision to attend the class. What is the opportunity cost of attending the class? Huh? Okay, attending it online or else. What are you going to do if you are absent for today's class? Today is right. Today, like the planet is also very gloomy. So you might think of ahead. So you might think, okay, whether to go to the class or whether to sleep in the home, right? So you made a decision now to come to the class. Now what is the opportunity cost? The satisfaction that you would get from sleeping. If it is the best option. So opportunity cost is all about the value of the foregone. Understood? That means when we are making a decision, we have to select one option. Why? Because of limited resources. Or else you can decide come to the class and sleep in the class. That is an option for you. Okay? But normally, due to the limited resources, you cannot satisfy all the wants. So you have to select one option. When you're making one option, when you're making a decision, there is a cost of foregone cost, right? That means the other best option that you could have done if you are not doing this one. For an example, for you, sleeping at home. Understood? So the benefit coming from sleeping at home. That is your foregone cost. That is the opportunity cost. So since this course is all about producers, can you tell me from the producer's point of view, what type of opportunity cost could be there for producers? Producers like the opportunity cost.
Investing.
Investment, yes. Maybe he has several business ideas. He might pick one, right? And like implemented it, proceeded with it. So then among all the other options, what is the best option that we already give up? That cost or the benefit is the opportunity cost for the produce. Understood? So the opportunity cost is also an important aspect. Right. From this part onwards, we are going to discuss it seriously because now I'm starting the course. All the things that we discussed so far is in the introduction or the background for the course. how this comes. What is the link? Okay, now you know what I'm going to study. So now we are going to start the discussion based on theory of production. Theory of production. That means we are going to check how the producers take decisions to maximize their profit. Okay, so what type of decisions the producers are taking? Now, when we are talking about the theory of production, or the production theory, first we have to know what is a firm. So, what is a firm? Can you read? What is a firm? That's how you read. So I always ask my students to read it together. I teach them. Can you read it together? A firm, an organization. Right. So what is the meaning? That means a firm is something take inputs and make an output. Right? So it collects all the input and transforms into an output. So that is a firm. So this process of transformation we say production. Can you say? Can you read it together? Production. Capital, labor, and continuous. Right. So this transformation process is production. Right? So these inputs can be like categorized broadly into three categories: capital, labor, and material. For example, let's take a bakery. Okay, so the bakery is the firm. Now, can you tell me what are the inputs of the bakery and can you categorize them under these three components: capital, labor, and material? Do it in your book. Think of a bakery and categorize it. So can you give me examples for capital in the bakery? What type of examples? Buildings, budgets, machines, all these ovens, right? So what are the material? The is sugar, iron, vegetables, meat items, yes, and eggs, right? So what are the labor? For the labors, bakers, right? Okay. So now you know, right? Now, these inputs, we can divide them into two types, okay? All these inputs, we can categorize into two types, fixed input and variable input. So, can you tell me the difference between these two? Can you read? Fixed input, a factor of production. What is variable input? Okay. Now you know the definition. Now you gave me a list of inputs for variable. Can you categorize these input into fixed and variable? What are the fixed input in a bakery? Machines, oven, building. How about the variable input? Yes, eggs and right? So fixed input means within a short period of time, you cannot immediately change the quantity. It's deficient. You need some period of time to change. So normally these fixed inputs are related to change in the capacity of the curve. Okay? So variable input you can change any time, right? So that is easy. Then depending on this nature of inputs, we divide the time frame of a curve into two, short run and long run. So can you read what is short run? What is long run? That's so the short run means within short run, some variables cannot be changed. So they keep fixed. Only the variable inputs are changed, keeping the fixed input as it is. So normally, if I ask you, can we categorize short run and long run depending on the duration? Like 1 year is short run, more than 1 year is long run, we can. Always we categorize short run and long run based on the nature of input. If we have two types of input, fixed and variable both, that means we are still in the short run. But if we have all the variables can be changed, then we are in the long. So why we are not specifying it with the duration? I have to because it depends with the firm. It is subjective from firm to firm. Understood? For example, if we take a small bakery or a Canadian bakery, for them to change their fixed asset, maybe to buy one oven additional or to maybe build new kitchen, it would take them for more than 5 or 6 years, right? Depending on their capacity. But if we take more established bakery chain, like Pereira and Sons or Farrell or Caramel, for them, it would take like very short period of time to change their fixed asset. Buying a machine or building a new factory would be easier for them and would take less time. So it depends with the capacity. Understood? That's why we are not specifying short run and long run with respect to time. Because it is subjective from firm to firm. But always we refer short run and long run with respect to the types of input. If we have two types of input, fixed and variable, then we say it is short run. Understood that. Now, we are going to talk about, since we are talking about the production, we are going to talk about the production function. Okay? So before that, we need like 2 minutes water break. Then I see everyone like kind of half asleep, and do we need to take some water? 2 minutes break. You need more time? Yes, okay, 5 minutes. Okay? 5 minutes, and we are going to start with the production function. Quick. Okay? If you want to go out, but you have to be here sharp by 5 minutes, like 9 by 9:30 or 9:32. Okay, shall we start? Right. So we are going to start with the theory of production, right? Or the production function. Whenever we are talking about a theory, it talks about a relationship between two or more variables. If it is demand theory, what relationship does it talk about? In demand theory? Inverse relationship between price and quantity demand. Similarly, in the production, theory of production also, it talks about the relationship between input and output, right? So the production function is based, it's the model that is coming from the theory of production. So as we did for what we say for demand theory, from the production theory also we can build up a model or a function, right? So we say the quantity is the function of labor and capital. So let's forget the material for the moment. Let's say the two main input in a firm are labor and capital, L and K. So quantity is the output. So this production function gives you the relationship between quantity and the output and the input. Understood? So that is the production function, right? So it gives the relationship between the quantity of input used and the maximum quantity of output that can be produced, given the current knowledge about technology and organization. Production function for a firm that uses only labor and capital is this. So we assume that the only two factors of input are labor and capital. Using those input, we are producing this output. So this is the production function. Now, this output can be increased by increasing the use of the variable input only. Now we are focusing on the short run. Okay. In the short run, can we increase the fixed input? Can we? We cannot, because we do not have enough time to change the fixed capital. So we do not change it. So we say in the short run, this capital is fixed, right? So we are changing only the variable input, which is the labor, if we want to change the quantity. Understood? So we are changing the labor Then we change the output, but keeping the fixed input as it is. If we take the example of the bakery, what we are doing, we have only one kitchen, we have only 5 bake oven. We are keeping it as it is, but we might increase the number of bakers if we want to increase the production or the number of the loaves of bread that we produce. Employees never done. In the short run, we can change the building or the number of ovens we have. Understood? Right. So there is a possibility to substitute one input for the other, though they are complex. So that part is very important to understand. Normally, if we take labor and capital, in our example, baker and the oven, are they substitutes or are they complements? What do you think? Are they baker and the oven? Substitute or complement? Complement, right? Because the person will make the what you call the dough of the bread and put it to the oven. Then the oven will function and produce the bread. So both are needed to produce the quantity, right? But we in this production theory, we say even though they are complement, there is a possibility to substitute one input for the other. That means what? That means, yes, we accept those capital and labor are complements in nature, but there is a possibility to substitute them one to the other. That means in the bakery, if we want to increase the number of laborers for the bakers, we might reduce the number of ovens and increase the laborers. It would be like the seal. Some tasks that are done by the machine or the oven would do by the laborers themselves. Understood? The labor oven එක නැතුව අපි ගන්න අතින් පයින් කොහොමද හදන්නේ? That's all. If we take the other way around, if we want to increase the number of ovens, then we have to reduce the number of laborers. So we assume that some human functions could be done by the machine. Understood? Machine එකෙන් ඉතුරු ටිකක් කරනවා අර අලුතෙන මිනිස්සුන්ගේ ගන්න. So there is a possibility of substitute. Understood? So if we, especially if we take the agriculture sector in Sri Lanka, this machine and human are substituted, right? So if we compare the past, all the functions, if we want to make paddy or rice, all the functions are done by humans now. They did not have machine. So human and animals together did the farming process. Kind of that thing, right? Maybe we can introduce a machine. So some of the humans can be replaced from the process. So there is some substitution between the two. Did you understand that? Okay. Even though they are complementary nature, some substitution is applicable. So that is very important to understand the rest of the lesson. Now we are going to talk about the properties of this production function. Now you know what is production function. Now we are going to talk about the properties of the production function. Right? So here we say there is a limit to extra production that can be achieved when more of one input is used while other inputs are held constant. Now this is short run, K is fixed. So keeping K fixed, if we keep increase the labors. For example, in our bakery, now what we do, we keep increasing the labors. We recruit more bakers, more and more. But our number of machines are fixed. The kitchen is fixed. The space is fixed. So at one point, we are coming to a point where we cannot increase the production quantity. Why? because we are keeping one factor fixed in the short run. So if we take the bakery, if we recruit people more and more without the machine and without enough space, can they function properly? No, they will be idle, right? We do not have enough fixed input. So there is a point, there is a limit where we can do the extra production by keeping one input fixed, changing only the variable input. Understood? Right. So the same point again we are specifying here. There is some complementarity among input, but it is possible to substitute the use of one input for another without reducing production. So we can substitute the two input, capital to labor, labor to capital. Even though they are complementary in nature, some possibilities there for substitution. So in the short run, we say the capital is fixed. Then the firm can increase the output only by increasing the amount of labor usage. So we are changing only the L here. Okay. Right. So this is the production. If we draw the production function, that means now we are in the short run. First, we are starting the discussion with the short run. In the short run, capital is fixed. We are changing only the labor, right? So now please look at this production curve, which we have shown. In y-axis, we have the total output, Q. In x-axis, we have the variable input, which is labor, because the fixed one is fixed now, so it does not change. So we only change the labor. So now you can see the shape, right? Now look at the diagram or the graph and can we observe some dynamics? What is happening to the total production over the timeline? What happened at first? What happened at first? The production is increasing. But if we observe the production up to point A, what happened? And then up to A to B, what happened? Can you understand the difference? Point A and to point B. Can you understand the difference? No. Okay, it's increasing, but can you observe some difference on the rate of increase or the speed of increase? Can you? Yes. So what is happening now to point A? It is increasing at a what rate? So from A to B, you say it's increasing at a high speed. A to B is slow. Okay. 0 to A? High. So how do you decide? How do I speed do you decide? What you are getting there? Input and output. Difference or ratio. So normally what is this ratio? Input to output ratio means what? Okay. If we draw any curve, for example, let's think about this demand curve, simple demand curve. This one. What does this give? What does it give? Does it give? Like if we take the change in y-axis divided by, so this is let's say this is delta y, this is delta x. So delta y divided by delta x gives you what? Huh? The name is what? Yes. Slope, right? To get a slope of any function, you need to divide the delta y from delta x. In this case, delta q from delta n. Understood? So that is the slope. The problem is, here this is a non-linear curve, right? It is not linear. Linear, then it is easy for us to understand the slope. But for a non-linear, directly we cannot get the slope. So for a non-linear curve, how can we get the slope? Non-linear slope is going to with it. We don't know. Geometrically, how? Are you guys studying maths also in this same program? No? Yes, right? Answer the like if we have a curve like this, which is non-linear, right? This is a linear curve. This is non-linear. If we want to get the slope of a non-linear curve, what do? We have to draw some tangents, right? So we draw some tangents here, likewise. Then for this tangent, we get the slope. Understood? For the tangent, we get the slope. That's how we get the slope for a nonlinear curve. Slope gives you the rate of change. If you change the input, how much the quantity is going to be changed. That is given by the slope of the function. Understood? Okay. Now, if we compare here to here, what happened? If we draw the slope, what happened to the slope, the speed? And if we draw tangent up to A to B, what happened? Can you please draw this diagram in your book and make some tangent? Draw some tangents also in this one. Oh. Mm-hmm. එතකොට 12 3 තියෙන එකද? හරි. Okay, there is a special, I think, for you, a happy news. Tomorrow, 12 to 3, is there a lecture scheduled by Professor Panwar and Srilanka. So this now has been cancelled. So you only have this children's lecture tomorrow. Okay? Are you happy? Shall I take that within that for tomorrow? Also, so like this week, so you have like 9-hour economics. You got that? Right. Okay, what is now your conclusion? What is the conclusion? It's very funny to see here. You guys pay some price to come here, no? No, it's not free of charge, no? So you're paying a price to get this degree, right? So for our students in the university, we kind of get the feeling that students do not feel it, no? The payment does not come from their own pocket. Someone else taken for that, no? Then how any payment extra the tax, no? So like the students sometimes when they like do not come to the lectures, they do not feel that there is opportunity cost. Like someone else has paid the price for them to learn film. For you guys pay and come here, right? So you feel it, don't you? So the prices or the money comes from the parents, is it? No, out of your own pocket. So even still, you're happy to cancel the lecture. Yes, very rational consumer. Even after paid by yourself, knowing the value of money, but again you like, if there is a cancellation. Okay, interesting. Right. So what is your conclusion here? Did you draw it? What is happening to the slope? Is it increasing or decreasing? When you go from 0 to the point C, what is happening? What is happening? Is the slope increasing or decreasing? What? Any idea? Okay. First of all, I would ask you this question to make it simple. If the slope is high, if you get a big value for the slope, what does it mean? So I told you here the slope is delta Q over delta L something, no? Right? So what is the change happening in the quantity when you change the label? Understood? Okay, right. Now the value for this, let's say 10. In another instance, it's 5. So the 10 is the bigger value. That means what? Higher slope means what? The quantity change at a higher speed or lesser speed? Okay, let's say here, both of the time, let's assume we increase the labor by 1 point. That means at one time we are increasing 1 labor to 2. We are including 1 labor addition. So the addition would be 10 of 10. We get it? 10 divided by 1, we get the answer 10. So we increase the labor by 1 unit, the production will increase by 10. So the slope is 10 divided by Q divided by delta 1. Then the second scenario, again we are increasing the labor by 1 more unit, 1 more people. Okay? So again the quantity change, but by 5 units. How එක මේක කෙනෙක් වැඩි කරගත්තා. එතකොට quantity එක නම් 5කින්. target 5කින් වැඩි වෙනවා production. So now what is to understand? Now initially the slope was 10. Now the slope is 5. So which one has the higher speed of change? 10, right? So the change in the labor, change in the input is same, but the change in the quantity has been here double. So higher the slope is, speed of change is higher. That understood? So the slope value higher is, the rate of change is higher. That is okay. Now if the slope is higher, that means rate of change is higher. Now we draw some tangents here and we observe what is happening to the total production when we keep increasing labor. Here from y-axis we increase labor. And our total production is also increased in up to point C, then it is decreasing. But if we observe here this part, we can observe at the beginning the production is increasing at the higher rate. Isn't it? So we say increasing at the increasing rate. Understood? So here if we observe these parts from here, the slope is higher. Then we have a slope value. But if we compare these parts over here, the slope is small. The change is small. That means the production is still increasing, but at a decreasing rate. Understood? So after point C, the production is increasing, but at first it increasing at an increasing rate, but then it increased at a decreasing rate. Then after point C, it started to decrease. Understood? So we made 3 observations from the total production function. If we keep fixed input fixed as it is, but we change only the labor, production will grow at a higher rate first. Then the labor growth will slow down, increasing at a decreasing. Then finally it will start to decrease. Understood? Okay. Now you understand what is happening to the total production. Now we are going to compare what happened to the total production along with average and marginal production. Okay. So for that, do you know what is average product and marginal product? Marginal product we already discussed. Marginal product is the slope of the total product, right? If we increase our variable input by 1 extra unit, what will be the addition to the total? Understood? So if we add 1 more labor, how much extra loaves of bread we can produce? That is the marginal product. Since the variable input here is labor, we say marginal product of labor. MPL because this is all about the variable input here is labor. So simply, let's say now with 1 labor we produce 20 loaves of bread. Now we increase the labor by 1 more unit and let's say our total production, this is labor, this is total production, increases to 25. Can you tell me MPL here? What is MPL? 5, right? So MPL equals delta TPL divided by delta L. Okay? So the MPL is the additional production for 1 more unit of labor. So that is the marginal product. So we can take the marginal product by taking the slope of the total production. So you know that, right? If for any function, the slope given you slope gives you the marginal. Whatever function is a part of differentiate, we get the slope. That is the marginal. Understood? Then what is the average product? APL. Average product is what? The total production divided by the labor. For example, can you tell me the total production here at this level? 25 divided by 2. How much? 12.5. That means what is the average production per month? Let's say if we have like 2 bakers in the bakery, if they collectively produce 25 loaves of bread per baker, how much bread have they made? Understood? That is average. Now you know what is total product, average product, and marginal product. So all 3 together now we are going to observe. So now what we are going to do, we are going to draw all these diagrams together. Can you please draw this by yourself? Because this might be tested. So you should be able to draw it by yourself. Okay? Draw it. Okay? No? You cannot take this much of time if we ask to draw it like this. Okay? So, alright. Now here in the upper panel, we have the same curve as of the total production. Now what do we have the two curves in the lower panel? Marginal product and the average product. So depending on the behavior of these marginal and average products, we are dividing this production series into three distinct stages. Understood? So if we look at the first stage, here, stage 1. Stage 1 is where you can see, if we look at the total production, it is, what is happening to the total production? It is increasing or decreasing? It is increasing. Increasing at what rate? Increasing at an increasing rate or decreasing rate? Increasing at increasing rate, right? So the rate of change is higher. And here, if you observe the average product and marginal product is higher than the average product. And both are positive, right? And here, the limit is where in the stage 1, where the marginal product intersect the average product. Okay, so that is the stage 1. In stage 2, what happened? Still the total production is increasing. So now what happened? Average product is greater than the marginal product. Both are decreasing, but still positive. So the second stage limit is where NPL reaches to 0. Understood? Right. So what happened in the third stage? In the stage 3, the total production is decreasing. Average production and marginal production both are decreasing. But average product is now positive still, but the marginal product is negative. So you understood the difference between three stages. In stage 1, marginal product is greater than the average product. Stage 2, marginal product is an average product. Both are positive, but now average product is greater than the marginal product. In stage 3, marginal product is less than 0. That means negative, right? So if you need further explanation, can you please read it by yourself? So do you agree with the first explanation? They say the total product first increases at an increasing rate. Okay, right? Then increases at a decreasing rate. Average product is continuously increasing. Right, average product is continuously increasing. Then, Then they say marginal product first increases, become maximum and then starts falling. True, right? Marginal product first increases, comes to the maximum, then falls. Then they say stage 1 ends where average product reaches its highest point. True, no? Average product reaches its highest point. That's where the stage 1 ends. Then let's go to stage 2. Total product continues to increase at a diminishing rate. True, right? Total product increasing, but at a decreasing rate, diminishing rate. Then it reaches its maximum point at the end of the stage. So it reaches to its maximum point at the end of the stage. Then at the end of the second stage, MP becomes 0. True, right? MP becomes 0.
Both AP and LP diminish but are positive. Both NP and AP are diminishing but positive. Then stage 3, TP starts to decline. Here, total product is declining. Then AP shows a steady decline but never becomes zero. My question, why AP never becomes zero? What is the formula? Average product? Total production divided by L. AP, so TP divided by L equals to AP. So why this never become negative? Can the total production become negative? අද අපි හදනවා පාංගෙඩි minus 20. Are we saying so? No, the production cannot be negative, right? So always a production can be decreased, but a positive number. So production is always positive. If the total production is positive, average production is also going to be positive. But here, the marginal product can be negative. Why? Marginal product can be negative. How come? Average product cannot be negative. Now we understand because always total production is a positive. But how come the marginal product becomes negative? No idea? Okay, think about the formula. What is NPL? NPL equals delta. You cannot remember. Delta TP divided by delta L. So can delta L be negative? We are going to recruit -1 labor. Are we doing that? No. So delta L is never negative. Then delta TP, can that be negative? Yes, right? So today we are producing 20 loaves of bread. Tomorrow, 25. The day after, 50. So the production can be decreased. If the production decrease, the delta TP can be a negative value. So that's why the marginal product can be negative, but not the average product. Understood? එතකොට NP එක negative වෙන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි කවදාවත් TP and AP negative වෙන්නේ නැහැ. Right. So the question is, at what stage a rational producer operate? Stage 1, stage 2 or stage 3? මොන stage එකේද rational producer කෙනෙක් ඉන්නේ? At what stage? Stage 1 or stage 2 or 3? Anyone who says stage 3? Stage 3? No one. Why? So if you are saying no, you have to have an answer. No? Why not stage 3? Raman, can you understand the lesson? Or now it has become Greek to you all? Here are you still with me? Why now you have started to hate me? Yes? And we can't answer him or say the name already decided. So why? Why not stage 3? Marginal production is less than 0. That means negative. That means if you produce more, the addition to the total production is negative. That means if you keep recruiting new labor, they are not producing anything at all, rather reducing the total production. So thinking about the same example of a bakery, can you rationalize how might it happen? Now we are keeping the kitchen space and the number of hours fixed. But we keep recruiting new labors. So what happens?
At one point, what happened? These additional labors do not have machines to operate. And they do not have enough space to walk even. Now the kitchen is fully packed. Now what happened? And they have to they the party the so the production decreased. So make the dispute starts. So their productivity decreases. Then the addition to the total production becomes negative. So all the labors that we keep recruiting are not functioning at all because the fixed input are fixed. So not effective. Understood? So that is the reason why the stage 3 is not a rational option. Clearly, if you go to stage 3, you are in the lower total production level. How about stage 1? No? What production increasing? Marginal production is positive. Average production is increasing. Then why? How do you select between stage 1 and 2? How do you select? Which one is better? 1 or 2? Is it 1? Why? But here clearly you can see in the stage 2, the total production comes to the maximum. Right? Still in the stage 2, in the stage 2, still the MPL is positive. That means what? If you go to stage 2, still you can add some extra output or quantity for the production. So if you settle in stage 1, you are kind of not utilizing the maximum capacity of the firm. You have the opportunity to go to higher production, but you are staying in the stage 1A, you have the capacity, you have the room to grow, but you decided not to occupy. So that might not be rational, right? If you go to stage 2, still you can increase the total production. Still your marginal product is positive. So that's where you should take the decision to settle somewhere there in stage 2. But if you go to stage 3, clearly you are making some losses. Taking additional labors, do not yield any additional out. Understood? Okay? Right. Right. So why does it happen? Why this total production increase and increase in rate, then decrease, increase and decrease in rate, then started to decrease? What is the reason? So this reason is explained using a theory called or a law, the law of diminishing marginal returns. So what does it mean? This law states that marginal product of the variable input will decline as the proportion of the variable input is increased with the constant level of fixed input. There is a limit of output that can be produced in the productive facility of a given size and technology. Keeping the size of the firm and the technology fixed, keeping the fixed input fixed, there is a limit that you can do. After reaching that limit, you cannot increase the output further. So you are going to reduce the output. Understood? Are you in this class? Why are you not? You can drag the chair if you want. Okay, so this is the law of diminishing marginal returns. Why the MP is decreasing. Okay. Now we have to decide what is the optimal use. Now we know when we keep increasing the labors, keeping a fixed input fixed. At one point, our output started to decline. So we have to decide what is the optimal use of the labor. What is the optimal use of the variable input? Understood? To decide that, there are some conditions coming from this theory of production. Understood? Okay. So to do that first, there are two assumptions you should know. First one is perfectly competitive labor market and goods market. Now here in this discussion, you should understand there are two markets. Goods market. In our bakery, the goods market is the market where we sell our loaves of bread. That market is the goods market. What is the other market? Labor market. What is that? Or in other words, we can say this firm operates in two markets. Factor market and the good market. So what is this factor market? My goodness. What happened to you? So normally in my classes, I'm like always to the latecomers, I'm giving a punishment. They have to do a song or a speech or dance, whatever you wish. So you two together can decide something and come up. Because since we have very long hours to do the lecture, let's have some entertainment. Huh? Can you sing? What can you do? You guys can decide. Not a harassment, okay? If you ask any student from my bachelor's program, so they do dancing, they do singing, they do everything. They are late to the class. That is, if they take just 5 or 10 minutes, okay? I'm not allowing them to come after 30 minutes. So you guys are late here for that 1 hour and 30 minutes. You start the class at 8 now. So what are you going to do? That's all? No? Why? Speech? Myself? No. Any reason for the late coming? You don't know the starting time? Or your starting time? You don't know it. So usually you attend the class at this time.
Usually we have more.
Actually, like make an arrangement how much time you stay for it. So yeah. So how about you? So excuse me. Then you can sing a song. I can't feel you can sing.
No.
No? Okay. We'll listen somehow. All right. So I will allow both of you to mark their attendance. And the break is giving you an example. Right. So, and also apparently you have missed half of the lecture. Okay, you have to catch up. Okay, right. So here now we have to decide at what point the optimal use of input or the labor is there. That means the producer has to decide how many labors to recruit. Right? At what level is it profitable? Understood? So to know that, we have to know these two assumptions. So I told you there are two markers that a firm or a producer function. Right? So the first market is the market you know, the goods market. What is that? The market normally the seller and buyer meets. Right? Then while baker keep on that's the goods market. Where you sell the final food or a service. This is also goods market or service market. You are considering this. I am the producer. I am producing the service now. Understood? Then what is this factor market? What is the factor market? What is the factor market? Any idea? The same as the producers sell their final product to the consumers in the goods market, they have to buy the inputs from the factor market, right? Yeah, input hadane, they have to buy the input. Here basically we are talking about two types of input, labor and capital. Now since the variable only changing is labor, we are focusing on labor market. So in the factor market, we are focusing on A, labor. Now this producer has to buy labors from the labor market. Now let's forget about the bread market or the goods market. Think about the labor market. Now who are the buyers in the labor market? Who are the buyers? Labor buy and producers. So the producers are the buyers in this labor market. Who are the sellers? Sellers? Laborers are the sellers. The laborers labor sell. So normally if you go to the job market, now you're going to an interview. So you are going to the labor market. You are going to sell your labor and they are checking whether to buy it or not at the interview, right? So that is the labor market. Again, there is a demand and supply in that market. The demand is done by the producers. The supply is done by the laborers. Understood? So there it is decided the price. What price? The price of the factor market, labor market is decided the price of the price of the labor. Where the price of the functional theory. What is the more forward word for the price of the labor? Salary, or in this lecture series we say wage. What is the wage rate? So this wage rate is decided by the demand and supply in the labor market. Similarly, in the goods market, the price of the final good is decided depending on the demand and supply for the rate. Understood? So we assume both of these markets are perfectly competitive. One. So we are going to discuss these market structures one by one in coming up lectures in detail. But at the moment, do you know any idea what is a perfectly competitive offer? What is a perfectly competitive offer? Market decided price, yes, in phase 2. Why is perfectly competitive? Can you tell me, do you observe any perfectly competitive market in real world? In a perfectly competitive market, we assume the information are 100% available for both the sellers and buyers. Like if you go to that market, if I am the producer, I know all of your income and your taste, your willingness to buy and everything I do. Understood? So accordingly, I have full information about you. So I know how many of, like each of you, what is the maximum price you are going to pay for my product. Similarly, you also have the perfect information about me. You know my cost, you know my profit margin, and you know what is the price I am going to ask. So the perfect information is available between buyers and sellers. If that's the case, can I charge different prices in that market? For example, in the perfectly competitive firm, all the firms compete perfect because they have full information. So, if let's say like I am one vendor, there's another vendor, then Mamatina Garden. Can both of us charge different prices? No, one. Another assumption is in this perfectly competitive market is the good piece I do. Good or service is identical. So the product that I'm selling is 100% identical to the product of the other sellers. If I charge you a different price, you can all go to the other. Not to me. So can I change the price? Actually, no, I do not have that freedom. So the price is determined in the market. In that price, you take in that price, I can decide the quantity I am going to supply. Understood? So in the perfectly competitive market, price of the output and price of input are constant. So both the price determined for the labor, which is weight, and for the price, for the grade. Labor wage rate, they will fix. That is not going to change. Understood? Because it's a perfectly competitive market. You will understand the market structure more when we come to that chapter. But at the moment, just understand this is a perfectly competitive market where the price is constant, both for the output and for the input. Understood? Taking that two assumptions as it is, we have to construct two concepts: marginal revenue of product and marginal resource cost. MRP and MRC. So what are those? First of all, if you are doing any, taking any decision, for example, coming to this class, if you take these two gentlemen, they decided to come late to the class, right? So that decision also, they always have, as a rational consumer, you compare benefit and the cost. Say another example. The choice is to come to the class and sleep in the class, right? You are not sleeping. Should that happen? Okay. So, right. Then I can't do that. If I done that, if you have done that, if you have taken it there, right. So, now here, always you are comparing cost and benefit, right? To make a decision. If you have a higher cost compared to the benefit, do you like to make that decision? No, cost is higher than benefit is higher. You would like to do it more. Benefit is produce. So you always come to the equilibrium where the benefit equals to the extra cost. Understood? So that is the rationale, which is common both for consumers and producers. Where are they? If you decided to purchase something, you always compare how much additional you have to pay, how much additional benefit you would pay. You compare these two. Producers also say they compare how much additional revenue that this production will bring there, and they will compare it with the additional cost that they have to incur. Understood? Right. So this additional benefit is the marginal revenue of product, MRP. So how are we calculating this MRP? How are we calculating this MRP? Marginal product of labor, marginal product of labor into price. Do you understand? What is marginal product? Now we already discussed. What is marginal product? If we recruit one more labor, how much extra production we can do? That additional production is the marginal product. So that product we have to sell in order to generate a revenue. At what price we are selling it? At the market price. If it is bread, market price for lower bread. Market additional production. So this additional revenue we can generate. Additional production is the marginal production into the price of what? price of එතන තියෙන කාගේ price එකද? good එකේ price එකද labor ගේ price එකද? හා? labor ගේ labor ගේ නෙමෙයි good එකේ. Or okay. How do we calculate revenue? Now you guys are counting people. How do we calculate revenue? Price into quantity. P into Q. That is revenue. Now we want to calculate the additional. So we have additional production. That one additional labor would generate. That is the marginal production. To take the additional revenue, we have to, this is sort of the Q net. Q net. So Q into which P here? Market price, price of the final good. So the MPL into price of the bread. Understood? Given you the marginal revenue. That means what additional revenue you could generate. Understood? That you have to compare with the marginal resource cost. That means the extra cost you have to incur to get that additional benefit. Now, marginal resource cost is given by what? Then the additional benefit is done now. How do we recruit it? One more labor. In giving to again, how much extra we have to pay? How much extra? Now, first I have only one employee. I'm paying 1,000 rupees. Now I'm including one more labor. How much extra I'm paying? 1,000 again. This is equal to the wage rate, right? One additional wage I have to pay. So always the additional cost equals to the wage rate. මේ තියෙන්නේ additional ගන්න කෙනා දෙන production. To convert it into, this is in quantity. To convert it into a rupee value, we multiply it by the final product price. And we compare it with the cost of the additional production, which is always equal to the wage rate. And how we collect understood? So here, these two concepts are now okay. Now the condition here is for the equilibrium. If your MRP equals to MRC, you decide, okay, this is the optimal way. Right? What happens if your MRP is greater than MRC? That means your revenue is greater than the cost. Then you would be more motivated to produce more. However, revenue can not reduce further. Understood? What happens if the other way around? Resource cost is now higher than the marginal revenue. That means it's costlier for you to produce more. Wage rate value. Then you will reduce the production. Understood? So ultimately you would come to a point where MRP equal to MRC. Okay. So can you please calculate this by yourself? Find the MRP, MRC, and find the optimal use of labor. How many labors to be occupied?
You have to calculate the marginal product, then convert it to marginal revenue product, then compare it at what point it equals to the shape. I know additionally then I think is the I will not think about correct now. You think about already I'm not get thank you to that temper. Income I'm not confidence like that I have already things will come in on you make a lot of investment. ඒක හැමෝටම කියන responsibility එකක් දාන්න කියලා. මෙයාට බහයි. තියෙනවා මිස්. ඔව්. නෑ නෑ තියෙනවා. ඒක සිද්ධ ඒකවල තිබුණා නේද ඒකයි පත්‍රවල මිසන් බෑ. ඒක මම නිකන් අර අන්තිමට ඔප්ෂනල් විදිහට පෙන්නන්න. මේ සාර ටික ඔක්කොම මගේ UPS එකේ ඔක්කොම පෙන්නලා දැන් මගේ නම් එකක් ආවොත් තමයි ඒක ග්‍රේඩ්ස් එකක් තියෙනවා ඇන්ටිනම් දැස් පයින් කරන ඉස්සරහට අරක ඔප්ෂනලි දාන්න කොහොමද කියලා යන්න. ඒකත් I'm thanks to you guys. Please don't have to then give part of the party Japan and I ඒක විදිහට දෙයක් තියෙනවා. දැන් මම කරන්නේ නැත්තේ. ඒකකොට මිස් කියන්නේ ඔන්නම් ෆන්ක්ෂන් එකේ දැන් ආන්සර් දෙයක් කියනවා. එන්නේ කිසිම හරියට කෝල් එකේ online දැන් These are genuine inspirations. Maybe not that even certified කරන්න දෙයක් නැහැ නේ අපිට කියන්නේ වස්දාල ඒකේ ෆොටෝ දාලා නේ ඉස්තෙන් එන්ගලොප් මට ටිකක් හැකියි. ඒකේ ඔෆිස් එකේ තියෙනවා. සහෝදරයන් අපිට දැන් මමත් විතර මම ඒක වෙනදන්නේ ගන්න හැබැයි highlight කරනවා.
මගේ attendance එක මේ paper එක යන meetings එක ඇයිද කියලා ගන්න කියලා. මම ගියාද? LMS පොඩ්ඩක්.
නෑ නෑ ඉස්සරහට විචිකුටි. ඒක කියන්නේ කෝපඩක් මාසයක් විතර කරලා කියලා Oh. ඒකේ තියෙනවා මාස 6ක් යනකම් පුළුවන් කියලා. ඉතින් ඒ කොහොමද බලන්නේ සබ්මිට් කරලා කියන්න කේස් නාම නැතුව මේකට පස්සේ කොච්චරක් මට කලින් කියන්න පහළ.
One product ඒක තියෙනවා මගේ පිටුවල කවුරුත් ස්ටාර්ට් ඒ වගාවල ඒ ටික දානවා ඊට පස්සේ උනාට ඒක දෙකකින් ඉස්සර වෙනවා මගේ account එක ඒකත් පෙන්ෂන්
Okay, done. So please check whether your answers are here. Did you get these answers? Okay, so now you understand how to calculate, right? So you have to first find the marginal product, then multiply it by the price of the final product. Here in the question, it has given you the product price is 10. So we multiply the marginal revenue product by 10. Then we get the marginal revenue product. Then in the marginal revenue product, we check whether that is equal to the wage rate at what level. So you can see when the employees are 5, it becomes equal to the wage rate. So the optimal use of labor is 5 labors. Understood? So that is how we decide the maximum use of variable input in the short run. Understood? So because the fixed input, it is fixed. We do not have to take any decision here. Now what happened? Now we are coming to the long run. Now what happened? In the long run, both variables can be changed. So there is no fixing. Both can be changed. So K and L both are changed. Then the long run production function, we are not fixing any variable. Since there are two input, now when it comes to the long run, we have to talk about few different concepts. Understood? So this first concept we are going to talk about. Now I told you before, so if we have the total production function, if we want to take the marginal production, what are we going to do? We are taking the slope of the total production. How do we take the slope? We have to differentiate the function one time, right? So to take the marginal product from the total product, we are differentiating the total production with respect to labor in the short run. Because the only variable that is changing in the short run is labor. Now we are going to the long run. Now there are two types of variables, labor and capital. Both are going to be changed. So here, when we go to the long run, if we want to get the marginal product in the long run, there are two types of marginal products. Understood? So what are those two? NPL and NPK. So marginal product with respect to labor, marginal product with respect to capital. So how do we take this marginal products? We have to differentiate the total product. But with respect to labor, here, with respect to capital, here. And the sign, we are not using D because in the long run, there are two unknowns. L and K go. But in the short run, we have only L. So D can be used. So have you heard of partial differentiation? No? Under maths? No? This is the very first time that you are hearing the word partial differentiation. So it's like this. If you have a function like this, something like this, you have two unknowns. So you have to differentiate this with respect to L to take the NPL. With respect to K to get the NPK. So instead of D, since this is partial differentiation, we use double. Okay? So it's not D, but double. Here. Understood? So it means here we are differentiating the total production with respect to L. Here we are differentiating the total production with respect to K. Okay? NPL and NPK. Now, when we come to the long run, there are several concepts that we have to do. First one is the isocont. What is isocont? So this meaning of isocont is iso means single. One. Cont is the quantity. Or isocont means one output. Single output. What does it mean? It means when we are talking about long run production, we are talking about a quantity that we can produce using different level of two inputs. Right? So in the long run, we have labor and capital. Using different combinations of labor and capital, we are going to produce the single output. That is the meaning of isocont. Different combination of labor and capital that can produce a single level of output. For example, if we take our bakery, maybe we can use 5 laborers and 2 machines to produce 20 loaves of bread. Pangili visang haganda, minisu pahapoy, na minisu visapoy. Yan mga 5 laborers and 2 machines. In the pangili visang haganda. Or else, we can use only 2 laborers and 3 machines and produce the same output, 20 units of bread. Understood? So the same quantity, different combination of input. Understood? So that is the isocont. An isocont shows the flexibility that a firm has to produce in a given level of output. Right. Now we are going to talk about the properties of isocont. Okay. What is this isocont? First one,
Isocont curves farther from the origin represent a greater level of output. So if we draw the isocont, it's something like this. In the two axes, we have labor and capital, two input, but same level of output. Q equals, let's say, 100. So it does not matter where you are. Here you can be here at this point. Here, maybe using 20 capital and 2 labels, producing 100 units. Or maybe you can be here, 2 capital and 20 labels, but producing the same. So isocont gives you different combination of two input that gives the same output. Understood? So the first property of isocont is isocont curves farther from the origin represent a greater level of output. That means if we draw isocont like this, further from the origin here gives you higher level of output. What? Any rational? So all of you have to be now rational students, no? Since this is all about economics, we are taking only rational decisions. Right? So here, if we compare this higher level, let's take a point here. What happens? If we compare a point here and here, what are we going to do? We have increased the input. And if we compare a point here, again we have used higher level of input. So both inputs, labor and capital. So if we keep increasing the ratio of input, then what should happen? Labor capital then වැඩි කරනවා we expect quantity also to be higher, right? So that is why the indifference curve moving farther from the origin should give you higher level of output. Understood? Right. Second one, isocont curves do not intersect. What? Isocont curves do not intersect each other. Here. So why isocont curves cannot be intersect? Alright. So let's look at this diagram. This is our first isocont. Then we have another isocont like this. Now on first isocont we have point A and C. Okay. Now why cannot this be happen? What is the reason? Can you be rational and tell me why cannot this be happen? Let's say now this Q1 is 100 units. Okay. Now A and C both are on Q1 isocont. What does it mean? That means either being at point A or point C, you can produce 100 units of bread. Okay. Now here,
Let's say quantity 2 is 200. What does it mean? A and B again, both are Q2. That means either you are at point A or B, you can produce 200 units of bread. Did you understand? Yes. So then, here A and C are equal, which gives you 100 units of output. Again, A and B are equal, gives you 200 units of output. This implies A equals B, A equals B. Then ideally C should be equal to B, no? C should be equal to B, no? So C should be equal to B. But if we observe C and B points on our isocon map, what happens? B gives you higher, C gives you lesser. So can that happen? And also if you look at A, you can see at point A, same unit of K and same unit of L, right? But two different quantities. Can that happen? Labor, දෙන්නයි machine අවුරුදු 9කට එක වෙලාවකට පාන්ගිටි 100ක් හදනවා අනිත් වෙලාවට පාන්ගිටි 100ක් හදනවා. Can we do that? No, that is not rational. So you understand why two isocon curves cannot be understood, right?
So here it explained, right? The reason. Then the third one. Give me a moment. Hello. Good morning. Hello. Can you hear me? Hi. Okay. Husband day. එන්න මම තුනේ පොළේ මම හරියට කියන්න වෙලා. කොහොමද හතරට කලින් එන්නේ? Right. What is the third one?
Isocon curves slope downward. Isocon curves slope downward. Here, sloping downwards. Why is that? Why cannot it be upward slope? That means a curve like this. This is labor. This is capital. This is our isocon. Okay. Can you discuss with friends and tell me why it cannot be upward sloping? Now discuss. What is the reason? Why it cannot be upward slope? How about you guys? I am happy upward sloping. Okay. Now, where this from? It's not going to unhappen. Exactly. So if you observe this upward slope in isocon, what happened here? Maybe 2K and 2L. Okay? Now if we compare point here, maybe 5K and 5L. Here 10K and 10L. So we keep increasing the input. But isocon means the same quantity. Doesn't matter anywhere on the quantity curve, the quantity is same. So it is fixed at quantity. So constantly happen. If we increase the input, both the inputs, we expect quantity to grow. But if it is upward sloping, we are increasing the both inputs, but the quantity is fixed. Understood? So it cannot be rationalized. How that happens? That's why isocon is downward slope. And finally, we say there is an isocon available to every possible input combination. Right? So we can draw isocons at every possible input combinations. So we discuss all these points. Okay. Next thing. Must an isocon curve be convex to the origin? Do you know the two different things? Convex to the origin. Convex to the origin. Convex to the origin and convex. And what is the opposite? You don't know? Hello? Concave. So how do we draw concave curve? This is convex to the origin, right? Concave is somewhat like this. So the question is, why isocon always convex to the origin? Is it a must? Number 8 convex to the origin order? No. But casual observation suggests that most firms' isocon curves are convex to the origin. Most of curves are convex to the origin, they say. Why is it? We already discussed this. Because we said, even though the labor and capital are substitutes and complements in nature, there is some substitution available. Instead of labor, we can substitute some part of it for people. Instead of using a machine, we can ask people to do that work also. So the substitution, understood? Labor to capital substitute, capital to labor substitute. But my question is, can we substitute labor to capital 100%? Fulfilling to substitute can. For example, let's say, now I am human, I'm producing this service. Instead of me, next week onwards, a robot. I'm going to robot in now. මගේ වෙනුත් තියෙන මං විදිහට සාරියකුත් දැනගෙන robot ඇවිත් same day the robot teaches. ඔයාලට වෙනසක් දැනෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඔයාලට තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ. මේ මම දිනේ robot දිනේ කියලා තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ. If that's the case, me and the robot perfectly substitutable or imperfect? Perfect or imperfect? You cannot like feel any difference. I am the labor, the robot is the capital. The capital. The robot can teach as like same as me. You cannot even feel a difference. Then what? Is it perfect substitute or imperfect? Perfect, right? If you cannot feel a difference, if this university or if the campus, instead of recruiting me, they can recruit the robot. Robot they can make a service. If that's the case, robot and myself are perfect substitutes. But is this the reality? There is always a mismatch between the machine and the human, right? So there we say imperfect substitutes. Imperfect substitutes. Understood? So let's say now instead of using the labor, we use a machine to produce the bread. No. That's why I asked you. We cannot make directly entirely depend on substitute. It's a not human, artificial intelligence, right? We have to be that way, right? So they like in nature, labor and capital are imperfect substitutes. That's why this curve is convex to the origin. Why? Here, if we look at point A, now listen carefully, the last part before the lunch, okay? Miss Right again now. Then you can go to the lunch, but we have to be there by 12. Okay. So if we look at point A, what do we have more? Between K and L, what input do we have more? Labeling the capital G at point A. More K, right? So we have higher number of capital at this point. Then we will like to sacrifice more of capital to get 1 point of labor. If I draw it again, this is our isoquant. Okay. Now we are here at point A. If we want to increase 1 more unit of labor, 2 to 3, we are willing to sacrifice more units of capital, right? Because we have plenty of capital at point A. But let's take a point over here. Now, at point C, what do we have more? We have labor, maybe around 10, right? So, if we want to increase the labor by 1 more unit to 11, how much would we like to sacrifice from capital? A very little amount, because at this point, capital is scarce, right? Capital is scarce. So we have like minimum amount of capital, but higher amount of labor. So we like to trade off a small amount of capital to get 1 more unit of labor. But when we have more capital, we are ready to sacrifice higher amount to have 1 more unit of labor. Understood? So it always the trade-off changes because labor and capital are not perfect substitutes. They are imperfect substitutes. So when the firms have a lot of one input, they are willing to give a relatively large amount to add 1 more unit from the scarce resource, scarce input. But when the
we have like small amount of that input, we are ready to sacrifice small amount to get one more unit of the other input, right? So this isopon curve is convex to the origin. We say marginal rate of technical substitution is reduced. In other words, the slope of the isopon, always the slope A to B or B to C. That means your trade-off, label with capital. That trade-off is the slope, right? So for the slope of this isopon, the name we use is MRTX, marginal rate of technical substitution. Understood? So it always diminishing. Why? Because of that reason. Understood? Okay, with that point, we'll wind up for the lunch break. So please kindly be here by 2, okay? Because we have to do another session. When learning? Hi, what is it? What is it? I can give you additional 10 minutes. 12, 10 minutes, okay?
එහෙනම් දාන්න එකනේ මම ඒලාට කිව්ලා ගන්න. ඒක මොනවද ඉන්ෆර්මේෂන් දාන්න කියන්නේ? සම්බුදු දෙයට දාන්න. ඒකට මොලේ ස්ටෙප්ස් වල මොනවද තියෙන්නේ? අනේ එහෙනම් දාන්න. මොනවට ඉන්ෆර්මේෂන් දෙන්න කියලා උදේම එක ගන්නකො ඒකට මට ඒක ඒ මම දැන් ලෝයිඩ් අහිත් ඒ උනාට ඉතිරි ස්ටෙප්ස් වල යන කොට පුරවන්න උදේම ගන්නකො මට ඒක උදේ මාරගෙන ඉවරක් කරලා මේ මම අර චානක ට්‍රාන්ස්ලේට් කෝල් කරලා දෙකට විතර ඔක්කොම ඩොකියුමන්ට් එක ගන්න පුළුවන්. ඉතින් දීලා තියෙනවා. ඒකට බර්ත් සර්ටිෆිකේට් එක කියවුවා තමයි තියෙන්නේ. මම අරලා මේක මෙන්න බලන්න. මේ කියා පාරමිතක දෙයියා කියන්නේ පාරමිතක ගන්න එපා කියලා. බලමුකෝ ඒකද මන්ඩේ වෙද්දිවත් ගන්න පුළුවන් වේද කියලා. ඊට පස්සේ මේ මම පාරක් ලෝයිඩ් කෝල් කරනවා ටිඑෆ් එන්න ඕනේ එයා එක මාස විතර යනවා කිව්වා. ඔයා ඒක උලාවට අපි මිනිහම අර පිළිස් කරගන්න ඕනේ. මම යාට කෝල් කරලා අහන්න කීයට එන්න ඕනේ කියලා. මේ අනිත් ප්‍රශ්නේ තමයි දැන් ශාර්මිස් කිව්ලා අම්මලාට ස්පොන්සර් කෙනෙක් දෙන්න ස්පොන්සර් ෆෝම් එකක් දෙන්න කියලා. අන්න ඒකට අම්මගේ සිග්නේචර් එකක් ගන්න පුළුවන් කියලා. අනේ ඒක චුට්ටක් කරගෙන දෙකින්ම print එකක් කරන් අම්මගේ මම සයින් කරන් ඉන්න එපා. ඉමිග්‍රේෂන් සයිට් එකේ තියෙනවා කියලා. සයිට් එකේ තියෙනවා මොකක්ද මම කියන්නේ ස්පොන්සර් කරන්නේ. අර ඔයාටත් තාම ස්පොන්සර් කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒක තමයි මම දැන් මොකද තියෙනවා නම් ඔබලා බලන්න. ඒකත් print එකක් ගන්න. අද ලෝයර් කතා කරලා අප්ඩේට් එක දාන්න. ඕක දාන්න කොහොමද අපොයින්ට්මන්ට් එක?
Oh, you won't get that.